person leaves its mother's womb, its every effort is directed toward building, maintaining, and withdrawing into artificial wombs various sorts of substitute protective devices or shells. The objective of these artificial wombs is to provide a stable environment for both stable and unstable activity, and to provide a shelter for the evolutionary processes of growth and maturity, i.e., survival, to provide security for freedom, and to provide definitive protection for offensive activity. Now, this is equally true of both the general public and of the elite. However, there is a definite difference in the way each of these classes go about the solution of problems. Subtitle: The political structure of a nation, dependency. The primary reason why the individual citizens of a country create a political structure is a subconscious wish or desire to perpetrate their own dependency relationship of childhood. So they hire politicians to face reality for them. Summary: the people hire politicians so that the people can, one, obtain security without managing it. Two, obtain action without thinking about it. Three, inflict injury, theft, and death upon others without having to contemplate either life or death. Four, avoid responsibility for their own intentions. Five, obtain the benefits of reality and of science without exercising or exerting themselves in the discipline of facing or learning either of these things. They give the politicians the power to create and to manage a war machine to, one, provide for the survival of the nation/womb. Two, to prevent encroachment of anything upon the nation/womb. Three, to destroy those citizens of their country who do not conform for the sake of stability of the nation/womb. And politicians hold many quasi-military jobs. The lowest quasi-military job being the police, which are soldiers, the attorneys and the CPAs next, who are spies and saboteurs who are licensed, and the judges who shout the orders and run to close the union military shop for whatever the market will bear. The generals are industrialists. The presidential level of commander-in-chief is shared by the international bankers. And the people know that they have created this farce and financed it with their own taxes, quote unquote, consent. But they would rather knuckle under than be the hypocrite. And thus a nation becomes divided into two very distinct parts: a docile subnation and a political subnation. The political subnation remains attached to the docile subnation, tolerates it, and leeches its substance until it grows strong enough to detach itself and devour its parent. That's your politics.
Remember what we heard him say today about, I don't know if you heard it, but the guy was given the meaning of politics. Mm-hmm. Poly means many, ticks means bloodsuckers.
They are. Now let's keep in mind when you start looking at Supreme Court cases and you look at what income is and income tax is. It's consent to fraud. They're telling you it doesn't apply to your labor. It doesn't apply to pecuniary wages. It applies to foreign corporations doing business by virtue of capital investment, and not so much the investment, but the profits made on that is the only thing that is income. And they've been telling people that their labor is income. They've been telling people that their pecuniary wages for services and trade is income. And they lied. And the people are suffering collateral damage on a massive, beyond massive scale for having participated and continuing to participate in a known fraud, and they're tearing your families apart and then sacrificing your babies. And then you're acting like some devil did this to you. And you keep consenting it to it. And then when people tell it to you, you act like you don't know what they're talking about. It's called collateral damage. So since you consent to demonology, why should you complain about the consequences when you're reaping what you keep sowing? You agree to unum sanctum. You agree to doctrine of discovery. Then you pretend you don't know what it is. Then you fakedly go along with BS and keep calling it racism and prejudice, which it is not. It's unum sanctum operations. And you keep calling your labor compensation and your pecuniary wages income. And then you keep signing papers claiming that you have income, and now you've committed a fraud. Now they can hold you to it because you keep on signing papers saying that you have income when you don't. Then they use it against you again to destroy you. And you keep cooperating. And here's the law supreme telling you that your labor and your pecuniary labor is not income. And then you teach it to your children and then say that they're educated. Then you wonder why you're in this trouble right now with all this collateral damage. Look at the communities now. Look at the broken family. Look what's happening now. It's called collateral damage. However, it was intentional. It wasn't accidental. Now you have a choice to deal with the higher principles of your ancient mothers and fathers and turn back to the principles of your ancient mothers and fathers, or you can go along with the earth being cursed, which is what's happening right now. However, the decision is yours. However, the responsibility is also yours. So don't start looking for somebody to start carrying the cross for you. If you're still breathing, you're still achieving. So let's get some work done. And thank you for sharing with us tonight, because this is what it's about, collateral damage. So let's discuss some of this.
We also talked about the fact that while it was targeted at the Asiatics,
the conversation that we had today,
with two,
now it's yeah. You know, like they say, and it's so true. There's no honor among thieves. No honor among thieves. People who were benefiting for decades and generations at the expense of the Moors, branding us blacks, Negroes, Native American, everything to remove us from treaty protections and constitutional protections and right of estate, and in order for them to legally, not lawfully, misclassify our people as minors, and our people didn't know it as wardship tenures so they could steal their estates. And a lot of people have been benefiting for decades. What they didn't expect is the de facto operators to turn on them. And as we've been telling people for the last 25, 30 years, what are they doing now? Since the world don't want to deal with the human traffickers and the baby sacrificers, because that's really their religion. People just don't know it. So people think that when they did the Roe versus Wade case, measured by the Dred Scott case, because that's what was used as a reference, Dred Scott case, devaluing humanity, that they loving women and everything. And so now you have a lot of sick people. They're slow-minded. They have perforated brains because they've been eating their own babies at burger joints and don't know it, sacrificing their babies, pretending they're helping women control their bodies. It's such hypocrisy. So they've been murdering their children and acting like they're not doing demon sacrifices, because that's what they are. And they ain't rituals either. And guess what? They're not eating Ritz crackers. They're actually eating powdered babies and drinking blood. And people say, no, they're not. They're just doing these because these are nice wine cookies and they're drinking nice wine and stuff. Well, they've been doing it for centuries and you've been helping them. And you can keep on pretending that it's just a beautiful spiritual ritual. These people are demons. And you have no idea how demonic they really are. You're going to find out some more stuff. And if anything, another reason we're having this conversation, because the truth of the matter is, we're going to need a lot of healing among the people. Because what we've been telling you for 25, 30 years is now hitting you in your face. You think you've seen it. You haven't seen it yet. And it's going to be so ugly, cruel, and devastating that a lot of people won't survive it mentally. Plus one of the things that they wanted to do, this is another reason why they wanted to expand, burger joints 2 for $5 and all that stuff, so they could get rid of the carcasses of the babies, that they didn't use the organs and stuff and the blood, is so that they could contaminate the people, so that when this stuff comes out, they can charge you with cannibalism of your own children. And then when you start saying that, oh, we didn't have anything to do with that, you did. Although many of you have been ignorant of it. But you need to know that much of the sicknesses that you have and the retardation that's among many of you is because you've been eating your own babies for quite some time, right out of the burger joints. Uncomfortable truth, but it absolutely is true. And for those who doubt it, do a little bit more research and you will find there is no burgers, no so-called hamburgers that are sold under the U.S. corporation jurisdiction that does not have human DNA in it. That's a fact. It absolutely does. And so for all of you who've been thinking that you're so super duper spiritual of God, of Jesus, and of Allah and everything, doing your burgers, you have a lot of women who've been donating their babies ignorantly, and some, unfortunately, willingly, to these human traffickers who have been pretending to be government since 1871, who have actually been genociding the people and getting rid of the carcasses, feeding them back to the people, and then charging you income tax that doesn't apply to you to support the institutions and the agencies to maintain these operations. And what we just talked about is lightweight. We really don't get into the real depth of what they've been doing to your children. We're just letting you know that you've been eating them. And it's true. And that this is collateral damage. So there's a lot of spiritual ugly going on, a lot of spiritual damage going on, and much of this stuff is going to come out more and more and more. And as it does, a lot of people, when they realize how corrupt they have become, they will be angry at the hybrids for doing this to them, but they also must start taking responsibility and stop consenting to this demonic operation, etc., known as the United States Corporation Company, that has been fraudulently presented as a country since 1871. And you got to stop pretending that you don't know this. You got to stop pretending that you don't comprehend what we're talking about. However, while you may charge us and be angry at us for telling you the truth and giving you a mirror, understand that these people who you've been defending are willing to genocide you and your family out of physical existence while you keep defending them and going against us for telling you the truth. And for those who've been sitting on the sideline judging those who've been trying to enforce the Constitution, which would include all treaties, etc., and pretend you don't know what this is all about, you shall be charged in history for your misprision. And with that, for the subject at the moment, I yield the floor.
You want to answer questions or?
Yes.
You got like an hour and 45 minutes left. Let me see. Of course, a lot of people are asking where they can get your book, of course.
They'll get that through here. We'll have all the stuff available to you later in their original text. Most of the books that we've been putting out over the years are highly abbreviated because we had so much opposition from people among us who should have been doing this for the people decades ago, and for both economic dispensation and expediency, much of it was heavily edited and put out. But you will be getting the Adeptus forms later this year.
Here's a question from Bobineer. Can Taj talk about the letter from Archbishop Carlo Maria Vigano to Donald Trump? Do you know that letter?
Oh, I haven't analyzed that. I don't have that before me, but they could share it if they would like to. If they could screenshot it and we can read it off.
Okay.
But I've heard of it, but I don't have it before me.
Yeah. Okay. So they put this question in there like 10 times, so you don't have to put it in there anymore. If you have it,
Do what?
No, I'm just saying if they haven't, you haven't seen it. So let me see.
Yeah, I haven't read it in detail. And keep in mind when you're reading this letter, and people need to know this: Donald Trump has not taken a penny for that position of the office of the president for the United States because it's de facto. And Donald Trump, as I told you a couple of years ago, I've been saying for the last couple of years, with a lot of people criticizing me and debunking what I'm saying, and I'm going to say it again. Donald Trump is assigned, and his missionary work goes far beyond that office, which is already dead. That must be understood. Keep what I just said, and you can hold me to it.
You didn't say was, you said is.
Is.
Present.
I ain't no was. He is.
Someone is asking about whether or not the flash drive, USB drive is still available. Yes, it is. And if you look across the screen, you'll see the information scrolling across the screen for anyone who wants to get the USB drive, the flash drive, called the More Science Study USB. But just text USB to that number and we'll get back to you. Let me see if there are any more comments, questions.
And I will
here's a question.
Give note too. I will review that letter from the Cardinal to Donald Trump. And keep in mind, as we've been telling people for the last few years, that there would be a feedback loop because the nations of the earth, the Asiatic nations, would stop trading with the U.S. corporation and buying their treasury bonds, which is really what all of this confusion is really a diversion from the fact that the stock market crashed. They're covering it up. Donald Trump administration absorbed the Inquisition Revenue Services operation of the Circle Church and the Chancery, known as the IRS, into the Treasury, which was closed since 1921 and has been using their own system to pump up so that some of you right now are still getting Social Security and some of the other pensions, all of which had already been squandered. And if it hadn't been for Donald Trump, a lot of you would be on the curb already. And again, that's not a defense of Donald Trump. I'm just telling you what he's done and what his job is. If it wasn't for Donald Trump, many of you would be dead right now. That's the truth. But because they're controlling our estate is why I speak of him. Not because I'm supporting him or any other of the hybrids who've been operating at the North unlawfully for generations to the destruction of the people of the planet as well as the people of the land. However, like I said years ago, Donald Trump is better than the whole body of the rest of them wrapped up in golden ribbon. That's the fact.
We won't talk too much about him, so they won't.
No, I'm just saying what it is.
I know.
But go ahead. And that's not a defense of him. I'm just telling you, is what it is. You ain't seen nothing yet. You just wait what you're all going to get hit with in the next week or two, and then in this coming part of the year. If anything that you need with each other and your family members is patience, tolerance, love, and forgiveness, because you're going to need it. And you're going to need it more than what it sounds like I'm telling you. It may get better later on, but before it gets better, you're going to go through a horrible storm. And you're going to recognize the psychic attacks that you've been under by these people that you thought were religious people. And you're going to find out who the real devils have been. For real. Are we here to try to kind of like, like we've always said, Dr. Naila, we can't stop the bloodshed. What we're trying to do is limit it. We can't stop the suffering. What we're trying to do is limit it. But we must be fair with ourselves and be fair with people and encourage them to dig within themselves that which is divine, which is where it is, and be honorable and sincere with the love and the cares that they claim to have for all that is divine and for humanity at large, and be very sincere, because you're going to need it. However, we're not going to tell you anymore, because how do you put it this way? We don't have to tell you we tell you get a political umbrella, study civics, study real history, declare your nationality, nationalize. Oh, yeah. Well, guess what? You're going to find how very serious all of this is. Not some time off. You're living it. It's going to become more and more clear to you why a lot of things we've been saying to you for the last 40 years. Hopefully, we can all come together, love one another, and try to do that which is good, and particularly forgive each other, forgive yourselves, be firm against that which is wrong, be firm against that which is evil, stop supporting that which is evil, stop consenting to that which you know is a fraud, and that's the least you can do for the children. The least, because you damn sure ain't done much else. Because this stuff has to be paid for. Some can be fixed. Some must be removed from the planet. And that's like for real. And you're going to need strong men and women to handle what you're getting ready to face. You ain't faced nothing yet. This is getting ready to get beyond ugly. Beyond ugly. Don't feel sorry for yourselves, though, because you earned it with your hypocrisy and denying the honor of your ancient mothers and fathers and following after their idol gods of Rome that you knew nothing of. So we're not totally innocent either. Next, Dr. Naila.
Okay. Person still with that. What can we do as a whole, T. Craig Forces, what can we do as a whole or to take action and see it change faster than 50 to 100 years?
The faster you stop supporting Rome and the institutions, and the faster you stop calling these fakers your government, and the faster you stop claiming your labor as income, because this is key. These are keys. I'm only giving you some keys. But this is an example of what's been done on multiple levels, on both the physical and the metaphysical level. And you haven't taken responsibility. Take responsibility to the truth. Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's. Stop the BS and stop pretending you don't understand this stuff. Because society around you is collapsing. The real deal of it is people can keep on acting like they don't comprehend this. Well, guess what? The house is falling down around them. You're not going to send this to another generation. You're not getting this off. This time you ain't getting this off. This is really what you really must understand. This time you're not getting this off. You got this off many other cycles. You ain't getting this off this cycle. Take responsibility and stop consenting to this BS.
Okay, questions. Okay.
And stop supporting institutions and persons of these institutions who have not been telling you the truth, but they're still draining your communities. You can stop that for starters.
Question: what if we want to buy more land? Should we just wait?
You're not buying anything. Well, let's put it this way. Let's get real. There is no buying or selling of land. Land cannot be sold. Let's get that very clear. Everything operating at Midgard is a stewardship situation. Therefore, you're dealing with inheritances that cannot be transferred. Any instrumentality issued by Rome or any subcategory or member of the Roman Curia in the order of deeds and mortgages is de facto, is a fraud, and is not a sale at whatsoever. It is a tax instrument of sharecropping. So anything that you transfer between yourself and them is a fraud, and you're buying nothing. If anything, claim your estate because you're the heirs. Now, who's the heirs? Now you got another issue that has been covered up, don't you? So we have issues that these things have been addressed, but people have not taken them serious. However, that's the call, true heir. So now who's the American? Because the daggone shore into hybrids. And the daggone shore is not the baby eaters. Yeah, they like it rare too. You find out how ugly this thing really is. A lot of you are, put it this way, the fact that some of the stuff that's really been going down is not known by some of you have saved a lot of you mentally. Because many of you, if you knew how ugly this stuff is, you'd crack, which is also part of their intention. So you're given some of this information to prepare you for what you're going to be smacked with. And it's not comfortable. And what we talked about is really minor. It gets that ugly. However, we understand the rule and the nature law of cause and effect. Even though the demon dragons are strong, they're only strong because you keep feeding them. You know, dragons talk big shit. Oh, I'm going to eat your sandwiches and take all your sneaks and everything. And everybody goes, oh, please, take it, not my stuff. You start feeding him that while he start going, I'm going to take your stuff. You know, big wings and everything, that flame start going out. He's trying to put out your flame, your Christ. You start feeding him. He has only energy because you keep feeding him.
We talked about dark crystal.
Oh, because
dark crystal is such.
It is telling you that they've always told you. Yeah. This is one thing that hybrid Europeans have always done because they know divine law. Whether they use stories to tell you, fiction books and movies, they tell you to reduce their karmic response. The key is to what? To get the people to keep consenting to them, consenting to their authority. They are great deceivers. Their missionary work is to deceive you. They have no authority. They have no jurisdiction. We keep giving it to them to the point that we're convinced that they have the power. We keep giving it to them. This issue of the income tax is just a perfect example of why they're still in power, because you keep funding them against the law. You keep funding them.
It says right in their paperwork that it's voluntary.
Of course it is, which means consent. And they know it's a fraud. You know, it's like this. Look. What section of the Constitution that all persons that claim any office, clerk, secretary, Congress, representative, council person, mayor, governor, president, any position of office, or any contractor dealing with them in relationship to the people must take an oath of office and also sign oaths of ethics, which we will deal with in the future. Document it. So when these people keep pretending they don't understand constitutional obligation and treaty obligation, they're lying. And when you and the so-called leader guys and girls around you keeps talking about, well, he didn't really understand this, they're lying too. And because you keep defending a fraud, they've entrenched themselves and they're damaging you and your families to the point that many of you are a paycheck off the curb. Let me tell you something. You ain't seen the horns of these demons yet. You think you have. Stop supporting them. And we know the rule of cause and effect. If we could just get you to stop allowing them to misclassify you, just declare the honor of your mothers and fathers. Do that much. It will kill the bond system that they sell around the world, which is really what's been happening anyway. But you want to start us moving ahead. Stop feeding the beast. Because his number is 666 and it's the number of a man. They're members of the Roman Curia. They're members of the Circle Church and Chancery. They're called Sadducees and Pharisees, i.e. they're attorneys, attorners, and lawyers. With their helpers or minions known as bishopric, also known as clergymen, standing behind a pulpit, claiming to love Jesus, God, and Allah, and they love themselves. They're just contaminating everything that represents anything divine. They use it because you keep falling for it. They just give you in different flavors. What kind of popsicle y'all want this week? The purple lollipop or the green one? They call it sex. SECTS. And also they call it denominations. Oh boy. You know, it's amazing when you really study us and see how willingly naive we have been to the injury of ourselves, our families, and our children. And then we have the nerve to march all over the place, praying all the daggone time, and starting new alphabet soup organizations to deal with rights and never read a constitution or a treaty. And allow these human traffickers to call your labor and your pecuniary wages income, and you sign papers saying that you have income and you don't, never did. Are you a foreign corporation that made a capital investment in a foreign port and then generated capital assessments, assets, and then you do the percentage of the profit made from that, which is what income is, and income is nothing else? And if you haven't done that, you don't have damn income. And if you sign papers and say you have income, you just committed a fraud, and they have a right to your estate. And that's what they've been doing to you. And you keep feeding them. Then you teach it to your family members. Because you don't want the truth. When somebody tells the truth, they try to tell you it's an opinion. I gave you their own documents. So stop pretending you don't know. You want to help your families? Stop that energy stream right there alone. Their bullshit will collapse overnight. They live on your virtues because you keep on letting them. And you keep on violent. You complain about them misrepresenting you, then you sign and misrepresent yourself knowingly. Now you know, so don't pretend you don't know. How about doing that? Institute that. Help your family with that. That'll help us move ahead quickly. Because remember, we're in the doo-doo because we keep swimming across the turd pool. Jumping in the cesspool calling, oh, how you like my backyard pool here? It's a cesspool. Well, we need our own perfume factory. Well, if you stop jumping in the cesspool, you won't need perfume. How about that? It's like you see a bunch of people standing, banging their head on the edge of a brick building talking about, whoo, you know, our people need their own aspirin factory. A little child come along and say, well, if you stop banging your head, you won't even need aspirins. How about that? Marching and praying all over the place, making ourselves fools on our own land. Going to buy your own estate from a foreigner who's occupying you. Under a color of law, color of authority, with a de facto, defunct, and dissolved corporate entity that they lied to you since 1871, told you was a country, and you bought into it. And that's what you're suffering from right now. The ignorance is amazing. While we sit around and talk about gods and devils every 5 minutes and don't even know basic stuff of operations on the planet. It's extremely disgusting, really.
Well, it's frustrating because so many things.
Because even a child could understand. You could present this information to a grade schooler and they can rationalize this. And adults have difficulty putting 2 and 2 together. You know, I think metaphysically 2 and 2 is 3.5 because the religion that I belong to, and they start that kind of jizzy stuff. And then they put it on their children. And then get negative results and then blame the devil. And he never did nothing to them. Devil walking around on 2 feet.
There's a question about Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher. Are you familiar with him? The question is whether or not Chief Federal Postal Judge Mark Christopher can be trusted or not. You know, he's the one that comes on from.
Learn to trust yourself. If you understand these principles, know why he speaks the way he speaks. Because basically, a lot of people, particularly a lot of Europeans and others, hybrid Europeans, people that are not even direct heirs of this land, are speaking how you should have been speaking generations ago. And all your marching, praying leader guys know and should have been talking. The things that they're saying is what we've been telling you for 40 years, even teaching you to write writs in that type of order. You have to do it. You're the heir. Can't be, you put it this way, if you act like a ward, you will be held as ward.
Yeah, he's a Moor. Yeah,
I know, but I'm still saying what is said publicly. Everything should be said publicly.
He does.
Yeah, but I'm just saying everything should be said. What he's saying, you should be saying. All of us should be saying. And all of the so-called leaders that keep talking about nationhood and self-determination. Because they know these things, they haven't been teaching it. What they've been doing is lining their pockets and going to the Bahamas with Jesus as half every year with birth or butt. That's the truth. We need to take responsibility for our irresponsibility. You know what I mean, Dr. Naila? And stop playing victim.
Mo West says, how are we supposed to know all this?
You easily go in yourself because it was in you. Your mom put it in you. We've denied ourselves for so many generations that we think that we can't think. That's what our problem is. Trust you. This is why, you know, a couple months ago we did, you know, self-government, understanding jurisdiction. We keep believing, we've been trained to keep looking for and believing outside of ourselves. Everything is within. And if they want to accuse or try to use the books anthropomorphically or otherwise, if they want to talk about the anthropomorphic Jesus, then he said, all of you are gods. Didn't he tell you that? Didn't Prophet Muhammad come to complete the cycles or the works of Jesus? Even though this is anthropomorphic? Isn't he his cousin? Distant cousin? Yes?
Yes.
Well, there you go. Get to work, y'all. You know, our concepts, much of what we do and say has been twisted because we've gone along with what things that can be easily proven to be false or misrepresented. And to get along with people or to be liked by people in organized groups and etc., we've accepted things that we knew are misrepresentations that can be proven to be misrepresentations, where we must admit that while over the generations we have taught the forces and powers of nature and cosmology in anthropomorphic form, whether via Jesus, Yeshua, or Muhammad, etc. These are anthropomorphic figures of powers and forces, not so much actual physical men. However, the collateral damage of these things, the anthropomorphic presentments not really honestly being explained to the people, has again caused much of this mental collateral damage that exists now when people are looking at these platforms that have been presented as religion. And therefore, the concepts have been corrupted. That is also collateral damage because the anthropomorphic truths have not been told. We have not rejected them. It's just that they're for children. Grow up and put your childish things aside and stop allowing the human traffickers to take all of the ancient symbolisms and pervert them as symbols of the devils, when in fact, those are scientific and cosmological and geometric symbols of both your body forms, your evolutionary development on both the spiritual and the physical level, etc., and also symbols of character building, etc., and the forces of nature, and are not demonic whatsoever. However, what you have is human traffickers and people with demonic spirits themselves that have taken that which exists in ancient Asia, ancient Africa, and contaminated them and hide behind them for their own good. That's why you must study so that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater. Keep that in mind, because we've been doing that too.
Yeah.
Oh, was there something else too?
Well, let me see if there are any more questions. Keep those questions coming, y'all. Let me see. Let me make sure I can. You're missing a point. In the meantime, could you tell them? We'll share with them this book that I shared with you today.
Oh yeah.
This is the first one. This is not the one I gave you.
Yeah.
But this is the old one.
Now, this is a book Dr. Naila shared with me, and this book is by Vernon Howard. Yeah, and it's called 1,500 Ways to Escape the Human Jungle. Awesome. And I just want to read a couple of the statements from the book. And it's clear that Vernon has been studying ancient African philosophy, Sufi philosophy. That means those with the hair, with the men who wear the wool, or the woolly headed ones, because that's your Gnostic wisdom or your Hermetic law, or what they call Gnosticism, which is the root of all the philosophies of religion on Midgard, in fact. Now, but I'll read a couple of them.
I got one from what? Let me jump to.
Yes.
This is 12:22.
All right, go ahead.
It says most people react wrongly to rescue, but if you take away my suffering, who will I be?
Yeah.
In other words,
yes,
you know how
they identify with
the suffering.
Now, this is back to what we talked about when most people don't know themselves because they spent most of their lives molding themselves around the job. Mm-hmm. They're educated. They don't know that their life is molded around work in service to other men who have not their interest in mind or in heart, which is why a lot of people are confused right now, because they're trying to get back to a job system that was never normal in the first instance.
True. We thought it was.
But we look at that as normal.
Right.
And it's been disrupted. But it does show you, what it does expose is the effect of the psychic attacks that have been put on humanity for generations, because this is where a lot of the healing must take place too. Right. You know, for people to really begin to know themselves, and to even get to the point of enjoying the fruits of their own labor a little bit. Now here's another one. And share a few, because I know you had a few good ones that you were going to show. But I want to read the strange facts about the human jungle. Human society is simply men and women pretending that the game of pretense is not going on. 2, humanity appreciates truth about as much as a squirrel appreciates silver. 3, if you think that his or her happy face is a mask covering unhappiness, you are right. What most men call their conscience is imaginary virtue switching left or right according to self-interest. Anyway, it's a very good, good book.
Here's one. 878 in this.
Go ahead.
It says a conditioned mind can teach right living about as much as a small child can teach astronomy. and most of us do. You know, we have been programmed. They say he's conditioned. And
if you pay attention, that's what they've done in all the dogmatic religious platforms. They have not really been teaching breathing techniques, which is spirituality, nor the Gnostic philosophies, which is the religion. And they've actually misrepresented their own programming of their dogma sects as religion, and has corrupted the world. There you go, collateral damage, which is why many people can't handle this situation that they're faced with now today. Give us another one.
885 says the real solution to social problems cannot be explained to anyone who does not want to hear himself explained. You know, we don't want, we never see ourselves in the picture. It's always what somebody's doing to us, or
so it comes under the category of sheep and wolf.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, that comes under give no false rewards. Yeah. Isn't that casting pearls to the swine thing?
True.
Because you can see they're all actually Gnostic philosophies. And so, you know, this writer has been clearly studying Hermetic law.
569 is what is called worship or meditation is often nothing but an evasion of personal responsibility for self-awakening.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah. So,
and it's true.
And I know, look, we know this book's gonna
oh yeah,
sell out the book every time we tell you about the book. You know,
and for also comfort reading.
But this, you know, when I find something that
this is very
this has got 1,500. That's the first one I got, the old book. That's why. But I gave you a new one. Let me see if there are any more questions, comments.
Yeah, because give you an honest look at yourself, from the nature of how we have been trained to respond to each other. And as a matter of fact, a lot of the insights, gives us a mirror to ourselves and shows how we've been actually molded into this artificiality, that we've been calling the good life because we got a job and ain't got paid, even thinking that we've been paid. All of these paradigms, false paradigms are collapsing. So humanity must be prepared for a new evolutionary era.
I think each of us individually
has to
prepare, because we come in alone and we leave out alone. Yes. But it's between the time between the dash that we interact with everyone else, but each one has to heal him or her own self.
Yes, and you have to be aware of.
Yeah, you can't.
And take responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the psychology, and this is again, in order for the priesthood to feed on the people, This is why they have created the sacrificial lamb paradigm, which is really not the teachings of Jesus, the sacrificial lamb type mentality. So they could feed on the people as the people look for this outside savior when the savior is within self. It, as well as mean that they must bear their own cross.
Absolutely.
But they must understand what the cross is. It's not necessarily negative, if you get the point. It's really earth navigation. Because that's what it is. It's called the mundane cross.
Okay, that was just a little station break, because when I find something that I feel would be beneficial,
that'd be helpful, yeah.
I want to share that with you. Tarik Sniper Bay, what's the difference between erudite and adept?
Erudite is basically what an adept would be. So like education is to draw out, to pull out, right? Erudition is where you more or less become masterful, and an adept is one who masters, or what you would call master degree, or someone who's a PhD. Essentially, in your different social structures at Midgard, in different organizations, matters not. If someone is a PhD or doctorate of philosophy, that would be an adept. So like if you have someone who's like, say, a pastor, a bishop, an imam, a rabbi, a master carpenter, a mason, Eastern Star, Knights Templar, Knights of Columbus, they have different agendas, but all of those would be PhDs. They would be adept. When they have a title, when anyone has a title, they are essentially adept or erudite in the philosophy or the discipline so addressed.
Mine's a THD.
So addressed.
Right, so that's right. Let me see.
And keep in mind, when you have, and this is also why why people must study, and because that's good, because it leads to other issues. See, once people understand these fundamental rules, right? They know when you see people running around with titles, they're this and they're that, and they got 50 titles, and they have not produced literature or a product, they have no business with that title. I mean, if somebody tell you they're a doctor of this, or they're imam, or they're rabbi, or they're grand sheikh, or they're sheikhs, or they're an adept, and they have not produced literature to be critiqued amongst humanity, they're wrongly holding the title. That's another reason why they've been getting away with misleading people, because they make statements and take positions that they won't put their signature to.
Interesting.
They're called armchair rulers.
Someone says, explain Bay Maurice Toshira. Explain those Mongolian. I think they mean Mongolian mixed breeds, Mongolians and mixed. I don't know, Mongolian mixed breeds.
Let's keep it very simple. It is best described of the human family, truthfully, and because we're talking about linguistic group, but we're also talking about how man has populated the earth. In general, to be safe, with some refined examination, the different nations of the earth can be referred to as Berber gypsies. That's a fact. On another level, when you're talking about the Mongolians, who you refer to the Mongolians, you can refer to as the Dravidian or the Naga tribes of Central Africa, who crossed the Red Sea, went to the northern part of Asia. And if you would want to examine them, look at the ancient traditional dress and costumes of all of the people of Africa, compare them to all of the people of North Asia, of Phoenicia, Iberian Peninsula, that you know as Europe, and you will see absolute cosmological structure and geometric structure congruency, continuity, similarity, and symbolism, i.e., you're looking at Asia, Africa on the planet, period. So you're just looking at the extended family of Africa. That's what you're looking at. But if you want to be more specific, you just look at it. Look at the Naga of Central Sudan and Nubia. So you're still dealing with ancient Canaanite Moabites. That's all you're dealing with. All of us, and it ain't got a daggone thing to do with religion. It's called pedigree and bloodline.
Nor does it have necessarily to do with the complexion per se.
Huh?
Skin color.
It never did. It never. That whole paradigm is Carlos Linnaeus, the 1700s. People keep taking social engineering control systems that were set up by German naturalists like Frederick Johann Blumenbach, Carlos Linnaeus, and others. And what's the other naturalist? I forget the other naturals that they always use dealing with the so-called monkey theory. And you can look at that as being adopted into the social operations of the U.S. corporation with their operations at North America, particularly in the Census Bureau, etc. This stuff has nothing to do with the true history of the genealogy of the human family. It is more psychological warfare for creating schismata and divisionisms for the priesthood who chose to make themselves gods over the people, hiding behind Brahma, hiding behind Allah, hiding behind Amalek, hiding behind Yahweh, hiding behind Jesus, etc., which all of these are anthropomorphic expressions of actually the development of the glandular systems, the cosmological impersonation called anthropomorphism, given to structured metaphors, teachings, and mythologies to pass information and preserve information for generations. But in fact, most of these beings in the actual physical form, as taught anthropomorphically, didn't exist the way that people think they do. However, they do exist in the personalities of men and women. Now, that's the truth. Know the difference. Next.
Okay. Let's see. JL Puckett 40 says, how do I start collecting taxes for my newfound stolen land?
Make more people conscious, because the real deal, all that paradigm is dying. That's part of what's going on now. That's part of what I didn't want to really get into this because I don't want to put things out there.
So people say you said to do this.
No, so because a lot of things will be countered, because some things we're talking about, there's some things we're talking about are actually projections, meaning that if you go up and look at things, right, you're looking at placement of things, and some things are things to come. Some things, if you say, then the dark priesthood will injure certain people to try to stop things. So some things you don't say, but let's say this way. The tax systems, as you've known it, will not be part of the future for humanity. I'll say that much.
Right. And you know, it's very evident how many people are waking up and shaking up the system, the paradigm that we've been
the system is
because they're working so hard to shut everybody up, to shut everybody down.
Exactly.
Because
the truth. Remember, when they deplatform people, when they censor people, demonetize people, close people's accounts and stuff like that, is because you're putting a nail in the coffin of the vampire. Remember, if you're making a fool of yourself, right? Mm-hmm. And they don't like you, why don't they just let you make a fool of yourself? Why go through the trouble to try to stop it or to block it, right?
Yeah. I don't know what this person is. I'm going to put
then go to something else.
Listen, no, Stanford Jordan looks like an Albion. But anyway, the question is, what are you talking about? Can't make sense of what you're saying. Are we supposed to read between the lines of your conversation?
Some things.
Yeah.
Yes, some things. Yeah. Some things are for people who have insight. Some things are said in such ways because we know that you have enemies out there that are actually trying to hold the people back.
Yeah.
And so you give them, you know how you say you don't telegraph blows?
Right.
But those who have eyes to see, those who have ears to hear, hear.
Right.
And it's for everyone, but it ain't for everyone.
There's another one. LOL, talking in circles, offering no solutions.
Well, good, fine. You're the solution.
That's right.
Because you're not. You're the solution.
You have to be, yeah. Unless you are.
One solution is telling you what? Stop paying income tax. Stop misclassifying yourself as generating income when you're not. That's solution. Use it. And stop pretending you don't understand. And stop trying to block information under the guise of trying to be intelligent or helpful.
Yeah, just trying to interject. If you don't understand, doesn't mean well, whatever.
Well,
Naisha Tyler Bay. I'm not too much energy going to that ridiculous stuff.
You don't feed it.
Yeah.
You gotta see this is what you do. Knowing when you're helping humanity,
right.
Know that the opposition is just as strong.
Absolutely.
Know that they've been funded to do so. Know that when you come trying to help humanity, that they have persons that sometimes they call trolls or COINTELPRO. They're already compensated. They can comfortably do this. This is what their job is.
Right.
However, for people who are prepared or want to know the truth, they can see it. Right. They can see it easily. Sometimes you just have to point, just give people notice of things. And what you don't want to do is get the people into that dependency mentality, which is damaging.
Right.
So you don't tell them that 1 and 1 is 2, 2 and 2 is 4, 4 and 4 is 8. You teach them the principle and let them start exercising, because every man, every woman, and even every child must confess their own. It's in the nature of you to know. So stop pretending that you don't, and stop, and that's that mentality where they keep looking for a sacrificial lamb. Why aren't you being a sacrificial lamb for us? Why are you making us be responsible just like you are, that we're all supposed to go to the bathroom and use our own toilet paper? We need a Negro toilet paper wiper. No, you don't. You need to wipe your own butt and act like you know.
Excuse me. I'm not sure what they want you to go more into. Mark Kishan Christopher is, this is Naisha Tyler Bay. Mark Kishan Christopher is proposing cryptocurrency will be the new form of currency. What are your thoughts? It
will be a transfer, but I'll tell you this. While the transfer is being made, it's also another way of stealing the people's resources, because in the dimensional world, even though you're going to be thinking on a fifth dimensional level, that means you'll be more awake. However, the gold in accord with the sun, silver in accord with the moon, copper in accord with Venus,